Cody and David, thank you for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host, Matt Camp, head of partnerships for DealMachine. On these, we shine a spotlight on industry experts to really hear your inspiring stories and educate our audience on lessons that you've learned and how you see the world evolving. So today, we're really excited to welcome on Cody Bjugan and David Hill here. Cody's been involved in real estate development for nearly 20 years and has been a key player in 30 development projects, creating almost $1 billion in revenue from that. And then David also joined Cody's team in 2005 as the COO and heads up the Allied Development Land Acquisition Department and is an expert in real estate land deals himself. So I know you guys both started Vestright to teach others that simple system to get them into the game of off-market land deals. So really, really excited to dig into that with you guys today. Welcome on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And today we're going to dig in on how to wholesale land together. But to really start, I'd love to hear a little bit more than just your standard bio. So maybe can you tell us a little bit more about how you guys got to where you are today and why you started Vestright, just kind of the origin story there?
Well, there's a lot there to unpack, but I'll latch on to why we started Vestright.
Perfect.
So as you mentioned earlier, we've been in the land acquisition, land development space since 2002. We've learned lots along the way. But what we came to realize about 2 years ago almost, that we started looking around the marketplace, because as we got into this industry, it was learn the hard knocks way, right? There wasn't a lot of education out there. There wasn't those, and there's probably mentors out there at the time, but we didn't seek them out. So anyways, as we've become what we would consider experts or authorities in this space, part of life, or a big part of life these days for us, is fulfillment, right? Impact, make a difference. And that's where Vestright really came from. Is here we have all this knowledge and all this expertise, but yet 99.9% of people have no clue about it, but yet they're so curious. Like whenever you bring up land or raw land or development, the amount of curiosity in the room on that topic, especially if you're in a room of real estate investors, I've never struggled with getting attention when that topic comes up. So this led to Vestright. David had been over in Allied Development since 2005. And I kind of pitched this idea to him of launching an educational company in the space. And he liked it. David has a phenomenal background and he's a great teacher. He can get into his history. But so anyways, from that was born Vestright. And it was our way of kind of giving back, making a difference, being a part of our fulfillment. Don't get me wrong, there's a business strategy to it as well, and there's income that comes from it. But the biggest part of the foundation is the fulfillment of truly making a difference, giving back, which leads to Vestright's tagline, which is transforming lives through real estate. So that's a little bit how Vestright came about.
Love that. David, do you mind jumping in with your background a little bit too?
Yeah. So yeah, like was mentioned, I came on in 2005 and, I came in green, right? Cody had been in the game since 2002. I came in green and it was, that first year or so was a really great moment for me just to come into this world. I came out of floor covering. Cody was in floor covering before he got into development. So we both came out of similar backgrounds. But those first couple of years were great learning moments for me. And I figured out that I had a passion for it, that I loved it. I loved doing it. I loved working in that space. And then Cody and I just, over the years, I think we've got a special relationship, a partnership that just works. We complement each other. We have complementary skills and attributes. And so I think that's really been a big part of us having stayed together for so long. It's rare to see partnerships that endure 15, 20 years. So that's been a really cool thing. And then just beyond that, I just, again, love doing what we're doing. Vestright, when it came out across the desk a couple of years ago, it was like, yeah, dude, let's do this. This is awesome. This is Because like Cody says, you walk into a room and someone asks you what you do and you say you're a land developer, and curiosity spikes at that moment, and people want to know what you do because it's just such a vague, unattainable type of a profession, and not many people are involved in it, and even fewer know exactly what it is and how it works. So Vestright for us was just, man, we've got this great strategy for making great money, and we figured out how to do it with minimizing some of the big breakneck risks that come along with land development. And we just thought, you know what, there's going to be guys and gals out there who have an interest in this space and just don't know where to get started. So that's where Vestright came from.
Yeah. And I agree too, that like the entire subject of land development like that is something that, people perk up at that. Like, do you know, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it's so novel and seemingly, unattainable like that?
Well, first, I got to throw in one more nugget though. Why people they perk up and get excited when we start rattling, right? Of what our careers are. It's another key word that we always talk about, and it's a foundational part of our business model of what we do and what we teach. And that is when we drop the word off market, right? So all you real estate experts out there that are reliant on, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. Don't misunderstand me, but you're relying on brokers to bring you deals. You're reliant on seeing deals come onto the open market, right? Through the MLS or Zillow or whatever it may be. What we teach is what we do is how to go find these deals off market and plug them into a mailer system, right? And cold calling, and, now we're getting into ringless voicemails and all that good stuff. But off market is so attractive to the majority of the real estate investor population because they're always in line beating each other up trying to get a deal that's hit the open market. So off market is a fun topic as well to talk about. So, but why the curiosity around land or land development, or why does everybody perk up? I think there's a certain element of sexiness to it. I think, I've never said that before out loud, but I think
I don't think I've ever heard that before either.
I know. I think it's that curiosity, right? It's the unknown, right? People hear that people know there's big paydays in development. They just do. They know that the Lord's not making any more land. They know there's a limited supply of land. I've heard very few people ever say that you should never own land, right? It's limited supply. So, but the unknown is so scary, right? There's fear around the unknown. And so that's when you bring Vestright into the picture. And our goal is, through our experience and education, it's to help overcome that fear. It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. That's how you're going to grow and go to the next level, is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So, but yeah, it's an untouched space. One of our ads on Facebook talks, and it's accurate, it's one of the few blue oceans left in real estate. Very few people know how to do what we do. And that's fun. That's exciting. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? I mean, getting into it as well, I know you said like, hey, it's something it's unknown. It can be intimidating like that. What, from a risk perspective and you guys having kind of demystified how to get into this, what's the kind of the upside that people should know about getting into this? And what are some of the risks that they should know ahead of time kind of going into land development like this?
So Dave, I'll let you get into the details, but know that as David does, there's numerous strategies. There's numerous times to different points throughout a deal that you can exit. And there's numerous points throughout a deal that you can get paid. And understand that when you exit and when you get paid are two different things, but there's numerous strategies, some higher risk, some lower risk, but Dave can get a little more into the detail.
Yeah. I think, most people, when they think about land development, they think of the classic scenario, which is high risk, high reward, where you've got a developer, he's going out there, he finds a pretty big parcel of land, he takes it through the approval process, gets it approved for a subdivision, purchases the land at development prices, and then takes out a multi-million-dollar, what we call an A&D loan, acquisition and development loan, takes that money to pay off the dirt and then to fund the construction. Spends a year or two building the thing out, and then turns around and sells it for millions, and then makes in the multiple seven figures for his efforts. That's the classic, I think, the classic scenario that most people think of when they think of land development. High risk, high reward, because the minute that you take out a big multi-million-dollar loan to pay off some land and then to start getting into construction, and a construction process that lasts a good summer, 6 months, they can be multi-phase deals that can go on for years. Anytime you're in that kind of a position where you're leveraging yourself at that level, you are in a big risk moment, and the market could take a couple ticks either direction. It can make or break you, right? And so high risk, high reward. Well, where we come in is through the years that we've done this, we have learned strategies that will allow you to get involved in that development space, but minimize to your comfort level those development risks. In fact, our strategy doesn't even really make it past the approval process. We don't teach people how to buy land. In fact, most of our participants, we will actively discourage them from buying land until at least they're ready to do so, because that risk is so high. So our strategy really focuses on how to go out and, as Cody mentioned earlier, find these off-market properties, how to value them, because no one knows how to value dirt. It's an elusive beast, right? And we teach them the techniques for that. But then probably even more importantly than price, this sounds weird for a lot of people, but maybe more importantly than price is we teach them how to structure these deals, because development deals are much, much different than, for example, buying and selling a home. And a lot of people, that's the extent of their experience in real estate with purchasing a piece of real estate, is buying and selling a home. And so the structuring of those deals is so much different. And it's a big part of our training. We spend a lot of time on it, because you can find a great piece of land at the right price, bring it to me, a developer. If the terms aren't in place, I can't do anything with it. And we see that over and over again from guys in our space that don't know what they're doing, trying to put deals together, but missing the mark because they don't understand the development process and how to structure those deals. So it's kind of a long answer to say that I think we demystify the development world, and we say, yes, it is high risk. Yes, it is high reward up at this upper level of actually being a developer, buying land and bringing out the heavy machinery and building out these massive subdivisions. But you can absolutely get involved in this space without needing the tens of millions of dollars in your coffers to fund that kind of a thing, and still make great returns in a much lower risk scenario.
Yep.
Matt,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 6, if you don't mind, just to fill in. I'm going to give you, there was a lot there, and there's much more, right? But 6 basic phases or steps to a deal. Okay, I think this would be very valuable for your audience. We specialize in the raw land. Let's start with, we specialize in raw land, okay? Knowing how to find off-market raw land deals that have development potential, and knowing all the different boxes we need to check to see what can and can't be done with that property. Utilities, zoning, overlays, topography, blah, 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 okay? But here are the 6 basic steps to a deal. One is, and maybe it's more than 6, you find it and you execute it, right? You execute a contract with your property owner, and you structure it in a way they'll understand when you're doing development deals, you don't want to close on the land until it's actually developable, okay? And what I mean by that is that we don't know if it's actually developable until that jurisdiction approves that it's developable. And there's a process to that, okay? So let's just say execute the contract. Next is your due diligence period, okay? Feasibility period, whatever you want to call it. And that's usually 90 days, 3 months in order to do all the necessary research and be thorough in that process. So now your due diligence is done. Now you have what's called your land use approval process. And on subdivisions, which is our bread and butter, our meat and potatoes, you'll hear that sometimes called preliminary plat approval or paper lots or entitlements or whatever, right? We take it through that process, which is called the true official thing to call it is land use process. And it's the land use process, whether you're talking single family, multifamily, commercial, industrial, every type of development has to go through a land use process. All right. Next, once you get your land use approval process is now, okay, that's what's called a preliminary approval. And now okay, yes, we can develop this property. The next step you go through is what you call your construction drawing approval process, or CDs, right? So this is where your horizontal and your vertical construction plans are approved. Well, with multifamily, it's vertical or horizontal and vertical. With subdivisions, it's getting your horizontal development, your construction approved, your civil engineering. So you'd go through that gets approved. That's when you can pull permits and actually start building the project. All right. Next phase is construction, which then at the end of that, you can record a plat, right? And create these individual legal lot or tax lots that now have their own tax basis per lot. And that's referred to as finished lot. That's a finished lot. It's ready to build on, ready to go vertical. Your last phase is the actual home building phase. Okay. When you are in charge of going and you're what you specialize in or what you're putting energy towards is going and finding these off-market land deals, you can choose to exit and get paid at any one of those phases that I just laid out. You could ink the deal, call us the next day and say, hey, I'm ready to exit. I want to flip you the contract. I want to assign it to you. We'll look at the deal and decide whether we want the contract. And you might say, oh, and by the way, I want to get paid at assignment. Or you might say, no, Cody, I don't need to get paid until you exit. So at what time do you think you'll make more money? Well, you'll make more money if I pay you when I get paid, right? If you want to get paid right at assigning the contract, I haven't even done a due diligence yet. Your payday is obviously going to be substantially smaller. But at any one of those phases, you can choose to exit. And at any one of those phases, you can choose to get paid. And they don't have to be at the same time.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you outlining that for us, just because it is such a new subject for a lot of people on here, where this will be the first time they're exposed to the idea of, of wholesaling land or of going through this entire development process. I know you touched on, David, you talked about like, hey, you teach finding the deal, you teach assessing the deal, and then, being able to actually, go from there and then, actually develop it out. But the finding the deal piece, I'd love to hear a little bit more from you guys on that, on like, how do you, what is the framework you teach there? What strategies can you share, especially for newbies, on how to find off-market deals like this?
Yeah, like Cody said, we focus on the residential side of land development, and that's what we really hammer home in our course. And a big part of that course is teaching, okay, how do we identify, right? Because, and this is another common thing, you tell someone that you work in land development, and oftentimes they say, oh, well, hey, my uncle's got 10 acres. I've always thought it's a perfect place for X, Y, or Z, right? They've always got some big plan for this. And then, and then inevitably he's like, can I send it to you? Can you take a look at it? All right, I'll take a look at it. He sends it over, and then I do my thing and I come back and say, yeah, what you want to do, you'll never get done. It's just, you can't do it. So, and we teach them everything they need to know to be able to make those determinations. And that covers things like where utilities are located, what's the zoning of the property, how to get into the zoning code and decipher it and understand it, how to determine in residential what your lot yield will be. 10 acres over here and 10 acres over here, they might both be zoned residential, but maybe this one will yield 50 lots and this one will yield 100 lots. So we teach them all those components they need to look at. And on top of that, we teach them how to focus on certain areas of a given market. So we talk about things like, and this will be some jargon for you, but capital improvement plans, where you touch base with the jurisdiction, you find out where they've got projects going, where a new sewer trunk line might be going in, or a new water line, or a major intersection might be improved. And through these improvements, it's opening up development potential for new areas. Comprehensive growth plans is another thing that we have our students focus on. So there are all these things that help them. Once they know them, they can very easily and very quickly take a look at a piece of property and, as an expert, say, yeah, this is what you're allowed to do with this piece of property. Here's what this property will yield in terms of lot count. And based on my on my studies, this is what this thing is worth. And so I'm hoping I'm answering your question, but those are all the things that we cover, because that is the big mystery for people: is how do you find it? How do you identify it? How do you value it? And how do you know what you can do with it? And we teach them all that. And then beyond that, we get into what most people don't even know exists is, okay, you found it, you identified it, it's got development potential, you like it. Now, how do you structure the deal? And then I mentioned that earlier, that structuring that deal is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, and we don't teach go drive for dollars, right? Like, we utilize technology and resources to create our lead flow, right? So, or a deal, so just to be clear, people often think like, oh, I'm going to go drive around and make notes, all right, or pieces that I think are good pieces. I think we've probably developed pieces or made good paydays on pieces that I maybe have never even seen. So it's through technology, right?
Yeah.
Technology is a beautiful thing.
And to underline that, I think as well, because I know your audience there, a lot of them are involved in single family resident, that strategy. And so for a lot of them, it is important to go and physically look at a home and kick the tires and make sure the foundation is good. And it's almost the opposite with land, in that it really is more of a waste of time than anything to actually go and walk a 10-acre piece of land. I mean, you get there, you put your boots on, you spend an hour walking through a field, it doesn't tell you anything. And so making our determinations on the development potential of a piece of property really boils down to, like Cody was saying, leveraging technology, using GIS maps, using information that you gather from the jurisdiction, all the things that you do from your office. And what that does is it creates this opportunity for people to be able to put deals together that are outside of the radius around which they live. And that's very, it's a very freeing thing, because you can live in Manhattan where there's no dirt left and no development potential, but you can absolutely be going to the next state over or somewhere else in the state of New York and be putting deals together, because you don't have to drive out there. There's nothing to check physically. Everything that you need to do is done from your home office. So it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's my professionals, right? So I can go, we've done fix and flips in our career. I can go visit and see and put together an estimate, right? Or a projected budget of what I think I'm going to spend on rehabbing this place, right? And that's a very valuable tool and totally necessary. With land development, we're really reliant on third parties, wetland specialists and civil engineers, and the jurisdiction, what we can and can't do, and traffic engineers and geotech engineers. And that's how we build a budget, is through those professionals doing what they do and coming back to us with their findings. And so me going and walking a piece of dirt wherever, I mean, sometimes it's kind of cool, right? Because there's some pride there. There's some, there's there's something there that is enjoyable. But at the end of the day, me going and walking that piece of dirt isn't going to get my cost estimate any farther along.
Yep, that makes sense. Well, I mean, when you guys say like, hey, yeah, you can be in Manhattan and then develop, or wholesale or acquire land in anywhere, do you have any recommendations on how to get started with that, or like how to assess a certain geographic area, or, you know, like for a newbie, where should they, you know, where should they start there in determining where they should be investing?
I'll answer that. Well, for us, recently, our development company, Allied Development, in the last couple of months, we brought on a CEO to replace me in that seat, because I'm not a CEO. I'm just not. But he's based out of Dallas, Texas. We're a virtual business. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. David's up in Oregon. So, I mean, we're all over the country. And that's the beautiful thing of what we do is because of technology, we're a virtual business. We can work from anywhere. I mean, I can, you know, I'm going to be in Hawaii in a month and Cabo a few weeks after that. And I won't miss a beat. I mean, I will, because I'll be having fun and playing. But point is I could set up shop very easily at any one of those locations, or Italy, wherever, and still do my business because of virtual, because of technology. As far as identifying markets, I'm going to give you two things to think about. One is first figuring out if there's any markets that you're somewhat comfortable with or familiar with. Your comfort zones, right? There's nothing wrong with looking at your comfort zone first to see if within your comfort zone there's the potential that you so desire. If there's not, that's where you need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Be willing to go to other markets. Go where the opportunity and potential is. Well, basic logical economics, residential land development, the most opportunity is where the people are going. So some of the main areas we're focused on right now, just to keep it simple, we're looking at Idaho right now. We're looking at Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and the Carolinas. Why are we interested in all those areas? Because that's where people are moving. That's where people are going. Mm-hmm. I'm not so much, and no, sorry if you live in California. I got tons of friends in California. Nothing against y'all, but I'm not looking to do deals in California right now. People are leaving. They're not coming. So it's just economics, right? I mean, if you were to go pull the top fastest growing cities in the country, every one of them fit within those states I just laid out. So there's not a ton of rocket science. It's looking at the economical graphs, right, and charts and where people are going to.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it a little bit there, but I was really curious about your opinion on kind of the market conditions for what you guys do right now and trends you see happening within your space that investors should really be paying attention to.
Yeah. If you don't mind, before I answer that question.
Yeah.
Earlier in this interview, we talked about how you can get in this game with very little risk. I also talked about you don't want to close on a piece of land until it's developable, meaning until it gets approved. Where there's a lot, when we show, and you can go on our Facebook or wherever and see us showing, $1.5 million, $2 million checks, and majority of those checks are profit because we had very little cash in the deal. The way we do that is through one of the 5-6 strategies we teach, which is called a double closing or a simultaneous close. So we will take it through the due diligence process. We'll find it, get it inked, take it through due diligence, take it through land use approval, sell it at paper lots, but do a simultaneous close where our buyers closing with us the same time we're closing with the seller, and we make our rake out of the middle. Mm-hmm. And that's where some of those 7-figure, I don't love the word wholesale but that's where those 7-figure wholesale checks come from. And so we didn't have substantial risk in those deals because we didn't actually take title of the land and run the risk of the market turning and being stuck with the land. and we didn't take it on a multi-million-dollar debt through an acquisition and development loan, that we took that debt out to then go buy the land and then start the construction development process, that's where the real risk works, or falls. So yes, we do that, but we're comfortable doing it. But we also, some deals we exit before any of that risk starts. So I want to make sure I was clear to that for your audiences, is that's where you're not taking on the substantial risk, but yet you're seeing these big paydays. And then you can exit even earlier. You can exit after due diligence and get paid, or you can just exit, like I said, at the time of signing the contract. So there's all these different places that you can exit and get a nice payday. So your question, the question you just asked was, as far as where we're at today and where I think we're going.
Yeah.
And then related to our space. Mm-hmm. So,
complicated.
I'd say people in our space right now are just absolutely printing money. I mean, we all know what's happening right now in the residential market. Like, it's insane. The amount of supply versus the amount of demand is off the charts. Therefore, those are fun times for us. Where do I think we're going? I think is more where there's some magic sauce. I don't think I've ever said what I'm about to say publicly, but all the people close to me know this is the way I feel. Right now, we're in what I call an artificial market. It's not a real market. It's a market that's been built up, boasted up by the federal helicopter money, right? Through all that, we all know what the helicopter, or the checks we're all receiving, right? And then also through interest rates. I believe the market was getting ready to shift right about the time COVID happened. We had this little stall out trying to get our arms around this COVID thing. Feds then start coming in and somewhat controlling the marketplace, to where I think it actually added legs to our run. I think that this upcycle was actually, as far as what we do, was increased, was allowed to continue to stay on track and grow because of COVID and the feds. I believe there's a tidal wave sitting out there just waiting to hit shores, and the feds are doing anything and everything they can to hold that tidal wave off. Okay. I was also with a friend of mine 2 nights ago at dinner. If I dropped his name, you would know who he was. And I was explaining to him my little basic guy with no college education, born and raised in a small little town called Damascus that none of you have ever heard of. And so just my basic 101 meat and potatoes look on this is, you have all this demand that's been created by interest rates. You have people that maybe wouldn't have bought a home for 5 years are buying a home right now. So it's created more demand than what should actually exist in the market, but it's because money is basically free right now. So that's built up this demand. Well, the other thing that interest rates have done is, so much people are buying based upon what they can afford, and what they can figure out what they can afford is based upon what their monthly payment is, right? Their cash flow. So these lower interest rates drive down what your monthly payment can be, right? Mm-hmm. Therefore, you can afford more home. Well, now I saw an article, or I did some research myself. I can't remember what it was, a few weeks ago. Here's what's going to cause this thing to tip over. What interest rate is saving people monthly, but how much more they're spending right now on a home than what the price actually should be, the home price increase is actually surpassing the savings they're getting on interest, to where people are getting too far over their skis once again. And to me, it's going to cause the top to come off. Now, here's where I get a smile on my face when I say where the magic sauce is. The strategy we teach our students, and a strategy that we use often, is we exit before we don't ever actually take title to the land, where the real risk starts, like I touched on a moment ago. That allows us to be nimble. We can adjust how we approach a land deal, or what we're going to do with a land deal, based upon whatever market we're in. So we run very low risk of getting stuck or being over our skis. That's taking out the stuff we actually close on the land and develop. But as far as the strategy we're here to more talk to your audience about today, is it's all relative. So if the market takes a dip, that's okay, because as you're out there putting those deals together, it's relative to whatever market you're in. Market takes a dip, you have to go revisit the contract with the property owner and make it relative to the market you're in. You don't get stuck in this position of this high basis that's way beyond market values, because you're never actually closing on the land. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's my 2 cents on the market. That's my 2 cents on what's happening right now. No, I don't think I have no clue what the future holds. And guess what? No one else does, because This is new what's going on right now. And none of us know how long the feds can hold the tidal wave off. And for all I know, they might hold it off all the way to the other side, to where we never feel the effects. I don't know that I believe that's going to happen, but I mean, we're in new territory right now. So, but when it does happen, the strategies we're teaching and what we'll be ready to do ourselves, a lot of money's made. We're real money, where wealth is made is in timing. And so if you have the right strategies, you have the ability to actually make more money in a down market than you do in an up market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Makes
my 2
sense.
cents.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. David, did you have anything to elaborate on there too? I know I don't want to run too far over on you guys today, but
Yeah, no, I think that what Cody said about being nimble, I think, is really important to understand, because that's exactly what you need when you experience a market shift. If you're in a position where you can be nimble, then you're in a good position. If you're not, for example, if you have in January, you take out a $10 million acquisition and development loan, buy a piece of land, start construction, and then in March, the market takes a 5-point dip. Well, guess what? You're in big trouble, right? Because you still have that money that you've taken that loan out on, and you're still in the middle of construction. You're not even close to being done yet. That's why developers, quite frankly, that's why they make so much money, is because they take on these big risks, and with those big risks, they need the big rewards. Otherwise, no one would do it. Cody often calls us professional gamblers, right? That there is a gamble in any real estate, and land development is no exception. But back to the nimbleness, in sticking to the strategies that we teach to our participants, where we actively really kind of discourage them from going out and taking the high risk of buying land and tackling a subdivision construction, they're able to stay in tune with the market as it moves and shifts around. And because their risk exposure is maintained at a lower level, they're able to weather a storm much more easily than a developer who's just got too much dirt on his plate at a bad time. And I think it's really important for us to tell you guys, this comes out of experience. Everything that we teach in this course, I love the expression of turning decades into days. And that is one of the really cool things about this course, is that it's taking 2 decades of experience and it's bringing it down and teaching, and we're producing what we call land acquisition specialists our program is about, it averages around 8 weeks long, right? And so to get them up to the point where they know everything they need to know. So we're condensing basically 20 years into 2 months. And they come out of this thing and they're just have this ability to get into this market and shift with it. And they know how to, because we're basing on today's prices and we're not projecting to what things might be worth in 12 months or 18 months or 2 years when the homes start getting built. It really gives them a good level of protection.
Yep. Yeah, this was fantastic, guys. I mean, I know you touched on the course a little bit. Can you maybe, tell our audience how they can get in touch with you, how to get involved with the course, with your mentoring, all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the best place to start would be, we've got a free report that you guys can download. And then from there, it will also enroll you in kind of a beginner's mini course. It's completely free. We've put together the URL just for you, Matt. We made it vestright.com/DealMachine. So that's Vestright, VESTRIGHT.com/DealMachine, and head over there, sign up for the free report, and then you'll automatically get enrolled into this free program where people love it. It's a 4-video course. We talk a lot about what we talked about today, but we really drill down and teach you more specifics. We get into case studies, and it really is a great way to kind of open your eyes to the potential of shifting some of your focuses into land. And again, not the high risk side of land, but in a lower risk, but a very high paying strategy. And we haven't mentioned this, but our average return on deals is in the mid to high 6 figures. And those are on the deals that we don't develop. On the development deals, we make much more. But on the deals where we exit out using our strategies that Cody outlined earlier, we average in the mid 6 figures, and we'll drift into the 7 figures. And so the paydays we talk about, they are, in my mind, for what turned out to be what for a lot of people would be a life-changing payday. You go out and you do a deal and you make $250,000, $250,000, $500,000. For a lot of people, that's a life-changing number. And so that's what gets us so excited about Vestright and about sharing these strategies with these folks. And we're seeing it. We're seeing our first batch of students coming through. They're putting deals together, and they've got $500,000 paychecks coming down the road here in a matter of months. It's just so cool to see, and so fulfilling for Cody and I to see that happening. Where 2 years ago it was just a little thing that we did that very few people knew about, and we decided to open up the floodgates and let people in and teach them. So we're excited about it. Yeah,
I love it. I mean, Cody, David, I again really, really appreciate your time. This is going to be super valuable for our audience. It's a whole new world for them. So I'm excited to share this one out. And thanks again for coming on.
All right, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, to everyone watching, again, this is Matt Camp with DealMachine. Happy deal finding.